That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a few quick things before we get started. I want to remind everybody that our conference is right around the corner. It's a 4-day disclosure event in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through the 15th. There are tickets still available. And if you would like to join us, come hang out. There's 4-day passes, 1-day passes, and live stream passes. If you can't make it in person, journeytotruth.online has all that information. And we would love to see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is our 4th year in Grafton and the last year in Grafton. So come and hang out if you haven't been. So, without wasting any more time, we are excited to have Charles McNEAL back with us. He was on episode 352. He's a whistleblower. He sat in on 8 classified briefings on aliens and UFOs and so much more than that. And we went over kind of his main story the first time and got into some really, really interesting stuff. But this time we're going to take it even deeper, even further. And he has a lot to share with us. I've been talking to him on the back end, and I'm really excited to get into some things like genetic manipulation and this technology and how to prepare for what's coming. So there's a lot to get into. So without wasting any more time, welcome back to the show, Charles.
Hey man, thanks for having me. And how y'all doing today?
Great.
Hey man, how are you?
I can't complain. I got my health, got my wife, and I've got a platform to where I can get this information out to the people. I mean, I can't really ask for too much more than that other than my freedom. That's probably something we should get into, since last time, obviously, people were wondering why it was so hard to hear me. So if it's okay with you guys, I think I'll just go ahead and leave with that.
Yeah. We had to answer a lot of comments to clarify that. So,
so
you are in...
So,
yeah, sorry.
I'll go ahead and say, like, we are, for the audience listening, we are literally interviewing him from jail right now, and we're going to let him explain that and how he's able to get on a phone call and do this with us. And just go ahead and take it away, Charles.
Okay. So what I do is I call my fiance, my wife. I call Autumn, and then she 3 ways sometimes, or in this case, and usually for podcasts and spaces and things of that nature, what she does is she puts me on speaker, and then she puts another phone on another speaker. That way I'm not, doing anything against the rules. And I'm just really trying to get the information out there. I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, what the hell are you doing interviewing a guy for prison anyway? That, takes his credibility away. It does not. I was arrested for a crime I didn't even commit back 2012. I've been here 12 and a half years. And the only reason why I'll be coming home soon is because of that. It was a bank robbery, by the way, where they said this thing, this person passed a note. So I still wasn't even accused of no crazy stuff. But I'll be vindicated for that very soon. I'll be coming home very soon. But in the meantime, like, it's not going to stop what's coming from coming when it's coming. So I came forward with what I know because a lot of different reasons, but I'm trying to stop what's coming while educating everybody on what's really going on and giving them real tangible things that like file numbers and details to a degree that's never been done. And, if you would ever go check out my X page at TruthTold24, or listen to any of the, my interviews or podcasts, especially episode 352 from this podcast, and you'll see, like, it's not very hard to discern whether or not I'm telling you the truth. Unless you're got your blinders on purpose, where you just purposely trying to not listen, then you'll listen at least a little bit. So that's all I ask, is just have an open mind. Don't worry about my address, because my address doesn't dictate the level of validity to the information. This is real. I'm confirmed by Air Force Intelligence to have received these 8 classified briefings. The program, the Operation Society Hike that we detailed in 352. You can go back and listen to it. That's been confirmed. That's already, publicly confirmed. This isn't something that didn't happen. This is very classified, and I'm putting it out there. So, you mentioned genetic manipulation. Are you talking about the genetic manipulation surgery technology I released? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So thank you for clarifying all that, first of all, for the listeners. And I think, there's the argument that it takes away credibility, but I want to remind our audience that Carrie Cassidy interviewed a man by the name of Captain Mark Richards, who was wrongfully imprisoned as well, whenever he started blowing the whistle on the secret space program. And this was in 1980. That's how long ago this stuff's been going on. But she has interviewed him 12 times while he's in prison. And those are some of the best interviews out there with the best information, and they hold a lot of weight, and she's literally writing a book about it. So, I mean, this happens. This isn't a one-off situation. This has happened to somebody else before. You gonna say something, Aaron?
Well, the reason why he's in prison in the first place is because they framed him for a murder he didn't commit, because they needed an excuse to put him in prison because he knows too much. He's a threat, right? So
Right.
to me, that actually lends to your credibility, because that means if you're in prison, there's a good chance it's because you know too much and you're a threat or something along those lines. And that's why they had to come up with a bogus reason to put you in prison, right? Like you said, it was a crime you didn't commit.
Right. And like him, he had his, whatever he had, you said murder with mine at the bank robbery where they gave me murder type time. I got 50 years for some shit I didn't even do. So, I mean, no violence involved. Right. And then, and there was some other things involved where, trying to escape and things, because I never been locked up for something I didn't do before. I didn't know what to, I just didn't care how it looked and felt at that point. I just wanted to get out. Shouldn't have been here. So I was in my 20s. I was immature, still trying to find any way out of here. But now, I wouldn't leave if the freaking wall fell down. I would not mess up my legal chance of coming home at all to my baby, to my wife, and then come home and really put this life together where I can really show up at Congress's doorstep, and I can give these, actually come to the studio for the podcast and meet you on Zoom and really put a face to the information. I'm not going to mess that up. So I'm on my way home. I'm on the way out the door. I'm not going to be much longer. Between my PCRA and my writ of actual innocence, along with relitigating the direct appeals, I'll be home very soon.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So let's just jump straight in then to the genetic manipulation that you were talking about. Let us know what's going on there. And I know this can lead to, medical breakthroughs like cures for cancer and stuff like that. So, just lay it all out for us.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's not even a cure for cancer. It makes cancer irrelevant. It makes COVID irrelevant. So when we were created by the Nibiruans a long time ago, 224,000 years ago, give or take, a couple hundred years, we used to live extremely long. Those stories in biblical times and in ancient times where they talk about us living for thousands of years, those are not metaphorical like a lot of even pastors say today. No, that was real. That was real history books. And we were turned down. Our lifespans were turned down. Our immunity was turned down to immune system. Just a lot of different things. And people always talk about how, let me ask you guys, you ever heard people say you only use 3% or 6% of your brain?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not entirely accurate. What it is 3% of your DNA is activating your brain, right? So when you activate the other percentages of your DNA, you then unlock capabilities of your brain. And this is how genetic manipulation surgery, that's how genetic manipulation surgery, or GMS as it is in the files, works. So here's how it works. You have, similar to the looking glass technology, similar to reverse engineering that yellow book technology to look forward and backward in time. It's similar to that dentist chair looking thing at Montauk. It's not quite the same, but it's similar. Now, you have this thing hooked up to you, and this is not for regrowing. There's more to it to regrow lost limbs, and I'll get into that. But this just to manipulate the genes. There is something very similar to a radio wave frequency, but for lack of a better term, we'll just refer to that as radio waves. Okay, so that's your frequency. Okay, so that will in comparison, we'll call that your language. Okay, now then you have your DNA, you have your sequences. Trillions and upon trillions of sequences that we've spent along with help from other extraterrestrial civilizations, mapping different sequences specific to different things, whether it be lifespan, whether it be cancer cells in the body, whether it be deformities or whatever the case may be. Even regrowing lost limbs, like I said, I'll get to in a sec. You have a specific sequence. Each individual sequence links up to a very specific frequency or language. And what you do is you sync them. You literally sync them up, like metaphorically, like a Bluetooth to a phone. So it's very specific. It connects, and it's only for that, right? Specific to that issue. So you then use that frequency or language to literally speak to your DNA. And then you tell that exact DNA sequence to command the brain, to command the body. So what you do is you're instructing your DNA to command your brain, that then commands your body to fix itself, and it will do it. To regrow arms or limbs, and it will do it. To get rid of something in your body, and it will do it. To reactivate your lifespan to a specific degree. Each sequence can be altered to take it to another degree. We can turn our immune systems back up to even 10% immunity and not be able to catch cancer. Or I said catch cancer, develop cancer or anything. That's just the 10%. You know, you take it to a higher degree, and you think we can use this stuff to target addiction, where you wouldn't even be physically able to get high anymore. Or you could take it to where you would never be able to crave it again, or alcoholism, or depression, or any of these things. And I'm not talking about putting in chips or trying to put false memories or false feelings into you. I'm saying block out ever being able to be depressed while still being able to feel sad feelings if you need to. This all it does is make you naturally the more natural you, right? And then when it comes to lost limbs, you use the same technology, but then they have this closed-in, clean room type of basin with a liquid in it that's similar to what's inside of a mother's womb. And then you sit your nub or whatever it is in that closed-in clean room type basin, and then you talk to your DNA with the frequency, and you instruct that sequence to then command the brain, that then commands the body to regrow that, like literally a tadpole's tail, and you literally grow it back. And it takes, depending on the length of what you're trying to regrow, it would depend on how long it takes. It could be anywhere from a few hours for maybe a half a finger, or a couple weeks for an entire leg. And then you still have to learn how to walk on it again and stuff like that. And lifespan, we have the capability to max it out at 56,000 years. But if I was in control of that, I have plenty of, I developed a plan of action, a POA, a couple of years back on how I would do all this if I was ever given the opportunity to fix all this stuff and, authority over this technology. And one of the things I came up with was, during something called Mission 1, which is a 10-year deep space mission, we extend our lifespan by 100 years. And what it does, when you extend that, it then takes you back to your physical prime, of whatever was your physical prime. Like mine would have been around, 24 to 26, something like that, maybe a little younger, depending. And then all your ailments, body issues, stomach issues, anything that I have wrong with me or anybody else, it eliminates that, and it keeps it from ever happening again. And now you're in your physical prime, but you still have to eat right. You still got to work out. You still got to, be good and take care of yourself. And then you'll stay that way until you reach a certain percentage. So if we live to be 200, we wouldn't see gray hairs till we're about 160, 170. But, if we live to be 1,000, it would be around 600, maybe 800 years old before it's just how it works. All it does is just stretch it out like a rubber band. And we have the capability to max it out at 56,000.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible information. I mean, this sounds like, similar to, everybody wants to know where are the med beds, but what you're saying is like, we are the med beds. Like we have the ability to do this ourselves. Obviously, it will help with the assistance of technology, would make it easier as we're understanding and tapping into our true potential. But it seems like the possibilities are endless once we can unlock ourselves.
Yeah, well, they use technology for the sequence part. That's what they've been using. And it makes it a lot easier than trying to, teach somebody how to do it consciously, because while it's locked, it's very difficult for you to try to, go through, just for example, go through some gateway tapes to try to unlock your mind. And then it's a lot easier to just say, hey, come on, let's go to the hospital. Let's go to the doctor's office, sit in that chair right there. Here, what do we need done? Frequency 517. Here you go. Boom. 517 over here. Operation Labor 2. GMS done. And then all of a sudden, you're good. Cancer gone. Can never get it again. And it's a lot easier than having to try to teach somebody how to do that. But then that's what you're talking about is also a specific frequency to unlock different capabilities. A lot of extraterrestrial species that speak to us telepathically, they do so with technology. We just don't realize it. But we are one of the other species that actually have the ability to communicate telepathically without technology. We are a very, very, very unique species.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as far as like the different groups of extraterrestrials, that you just made me think of, I guess when you're reading through these documents or where you were shown, these declassified files, how many different races or species of extraterrestrials showed up in that paperwork?
I got to say something real quick. They weren't declassified files; they're classified files.
Okay.
So altogether, it was cataloged of over 160 different species that we know have come to this planet way before us, during us, and now while we're here. Not say during us and while we're here, but you know what I'm saying. Before us and then while we're here. However, there's only about 13 or so star systems worth of species that have a regular presence here, and out of those 13, it's like 3 or 4 dozen specific species. So we're all more, 55 to 69, maybe 70 different species that have a regular presence here, and out of those, you have about 7 to 10 that have actual authority, or that, and when I say authority, I mean work with MJ12, because MJ12 is the ones who actually run it. Everybody thinks like it's all aliens. It's not. It's just not. It doesn't work that way. It used to work that way. And so we had a 70-year contract where we cherry picked all the best technology from dozens of different civilizations and made them, help us turn it into something that we could use for our own biology and humanity and civilizations, to where now there's nothing besides one thing out there that we don't have, and none of the civilizations that are here have it either. That's the tranaloid, that insectoid, malevolent, the MALF, a malevolent alien life form in this file. The insectoid known as tranaloid, CBE4 is the cloned version of them. They have instantaneous deep space travel. And as of 2012, my last briefing, we were experimenting with trying to figure out how that works with the help of the GFL and a few other extraterrestrial factions and nations, or the alien nation, as some conspiracy theories call them. And we, as of 2012, we didn't have it yet. So other than that, we have everything. The Star Trek, you see it, we do it. With the exception of teleportation. Teleportation that I've seen is abduction technology. And that's to literally break you down to an atomic level by accelerating and decelerating your atomic makeup the same way you do as you traverse through dimensions, to pull you through a solid object and then reanimate you to, bring you back up. But you don't just disappear and then reappear somewhere else. It's a lot different.
Right. And you said that the Tyrannoloids have instantaneously deep space travel. Is that what you said?
They absolutely do. And they're the only ones that do, as of 2012.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as far as that went. So while we're on the subject of these extraterrestrials being here, were you ever made aware of any of the inner Earth civilizations? And if so, what can you tell us about them?
So, yes, reptilian type A, type B, type C, all of them are inner Earth. The Nibiru went to war with them and forced them underground after the flood. And the Atlantis was actually a reptilian city with human hybrids and human clones, and the Pleiadians were there too, and a few others. But they had bases near there. That's why. So now Atlantis, which is now Shield City, about, I don't know how far down, it's quite a far down underneath the Antarctic ice shelf. and you have the reptilian base and you have the Pleiadian base catty-cornered to both of them with that in the middle. So I say all that to say that right after the flood, after that became, over or under Antarctica, and the ice became, moved over top of it along with new ice being froze with the old ice. That was the main underground subterranean civilization that's been around for a very long time. Because they were here before the Nibiruans, they were here before us, they were here for millions of years. They've been here the longest out of any civilization, even the Pleiadians. But you also have other underground subterranean civilizations. You have humans down there that have red skin, purple skin, literal black skin. When they, like we say African American or black people or Africans or Haitians or whatever. When I say black, I mean black like spray paint black. And they don't look at themselves as, black people or black white people or gold people. They look at themselves as, humans. They're not Homo sapiens. They're not nowhere near Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens like we are, but they're humans. Humans is one of the most common extraterrestrials there are. And we have a subterranean. This is the most interesting part. We, Homo sapiens sapiens, we have a subterranean. Look down there.
But hang on.
Up here.
Hold on
but
a second.
We also have people
hang
that
on
are
a second.
born down there.
Charles, one sec. You cut out for a second. You cut out for a second. So you said we have a, and then it cut out. So you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we, as in the United States and, the G20 and about 5 other nations, our secret space program, we have an entire subterranean civilization of our own humans down there, along with extraterrestrials. About 1.5 miles down, anywhere on the planet, you'll find these bases or these tunnels that connect these bases. And there's dozens of them, there's hundreds of them worldwide. And there's 29 just under the continental U.S. And they connect with these huge tunnels, humongous tunnels, and they use repulsion tech, what you would call it kind of like gravity trains or whatever. It takes seconds to, move in between one to another and then things of that nature. And, my charger's messing up. So you have shopping malls, you have lakes, you have roads, you have vehicles, you have civilizations down there that are not even allowed to know that there are surface people, the same way that we're not allowed to know. They could literally walk around and think to each other, it's ludicrous that there's anybody on the surface because the surface has been destroyed for hundreds of years. That's what they're taught. Then you have others that are down there that are from up here that work down there, but they have the clearance to go down there and they know not to say anything to the ones that have been born down there for the last 50 years. There's a very fucked up manipulation tool that is used by the MJ-12 and the Magi Committee, which is way more involved. They just take the orders and get approval from MJ-12. But it's the Magi Committee that really runs this show. And those are the ones that, really implement all the things and all these ideas. And they're, the ones that have implemented the whole worldwide plan for the one world government. So I had a quick conversation with my fiance earlier today where, about me saying last time that a one world government is a good thing. There's a difference between a one world government and a new world order. A new world order is not a good thing, right? But a one world government is. And we need a one world government or we're fucked. GFL will leave and Transiloids will come. That's a fact. And we will, I don't care how good our technology is and how good reptilians and everything else that's here with us, it won't matter. If we don't have those thousands of worlds worth of GFL as a deterrent, they'll come. And without a one world government, they'll leave. GFL will leave. By the end of 2027, that's the deadline. The problem is the manipulation and the fucked up plan they plan on doing to get us there. And a little bit later in the show, probably about the last half hour, I want to, in case we can't stop what's coming, I want to give people what they can do to prepare to survive what's coming, how to prepare.
Right. So, yeah, I agree with you about the inner earth, the underground civilizations not being aware of the surface. And That's strictly due to a memory that I have. I call it a memory. It was a very vivid dream where I was working for a time corporation under Falcon Air Force Base, which is now Schriever Space Force Base in Colorado Springs. And the engineering facility had an elevator to access the underground. And the scientists that were working in that facility underground, we were deep underground. They were completely unaware of the surface world, and some shit went awry, and I had to try and like convince the scientists that there was another world on the surface, and it was like us trying to wake somebody up here on the surface to something that they don't believe in. It just wasn't registering. And then after that, I saw a whole episode of Stargate SG-1 where that exact same thing happens. There's a whole world of these people who don't even know that there's a surface, or they were told that
Yep.
it's out. So that disclosure is out there, and I absolutely believe that's the case. I don't think there's any fantasy to that at all. I think it's a reality.
You know what's wild is I've never heard or knew that that was ever leaked. Honestly, I know I've seen it. I've seen the files on it, or a file on it. And what really, what really blew me the most was finding out there were shopping malls down there. Like they literally built an entire world down there to have amenities for the people that work down there and the people that are from down there. And it's an entire thing they have going on down there. It's insane. And we are up here taught that if anybody even thinks something like that, they're a Looney Bin. Like they're just a Looney Tune. They don't know what's going on, and they need to be locked in a mental ward or laughed at or ridiculed or they lose their job, or you know what I mean, like all these deterrents to keep you from knowing the truth. I just think it's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, there's been whistleblowers who have said there's farmland underground and livestock. And I mean, they have their own ecosystem.
Yep, they do, and that's another thing. There's some things Dr. Greer gets wrong, but one of the things he gets right is, I'd say, a very high percentage, not all, of course, but a very high percentage of cattle mutilations since the 1970s were done by us. One, to get the material, but they could get the material underground in those livestock or even in labs. But the reason why they go ahead and use natural livestock is because they want to sow fear and make people think that, aliens are mutilating animals, because sometimes they did, because they needed the substrate for that. And they didn't worry about labs because they didn't care. They didn't care if you found them. They didn't give a shit. And then once we took that over in the 1970s, so we can start building these PLFs in preparation for what's coming, program life forms, and give them that gray tissue on the outside of that robotic skeletal makeup for make these little fake grays, these little fake aliens. We chose to do it that way on purpose, because we could still fear as part of the same project, the same operation, to make you think aliens are a threat to national security, the same way they instructed Elizondo to tell everybody that now.
Right. So, let's talk about zero point energy and some of this technology and ways that it can be implemented. I know you've hinted at it a few times, but I'm just reading through my notes here, and it seems like something that you really wanted to expand on. And just go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so the 0 point energy is one thing, but when you start talking about particle vacuum enhanced energy devices, PVEDs, those are the big boys. That's like 0 point energy on steroids. Okay, 0 point energy, to be honest, we've had people discovering that over and over since the 1920s. We've had people that have found out the frequencies and vibrations of the earth to be able to pull from this vacuum in very, very small quantities to power vehicles or to power light bulbs of our houses and things like that, and just putting rods in the ground. That taps into that magnetic field, that vacuum, if you will. What this is, it enhances that particle vacuum enhanced energy device. It takes your what's known as 0 point energy, which is really called particle vacuum energy, and you enhance it, and you turn it thousands of times from one to another. It's not just hundreds, it's thousands, hundreds of thousands. So you have a device that never overheats. I've seen, by the way, black and white pictures of this device. I have seen two different devices, one a little bit larger than the other, but what they basically about the size of a small cell phone in length, a little bit larger than a cell phone in width. We'll call it maybe like a tablet with cell phone in length. Little rectangle looking thing, plexiglass looking thing. And around the edges, it has these like wires that are real thin. And then in the middle of them, you'll see these little like dots. And then another of like a liquid. And then like around that, you'll see what looks empty, but it's not. There's another liquid. Okay. And they have these at the corners, the bottom left and the bottom right, they have these little like metal plates. I guess you can call them, they're a little different than metal plates. But really, lack of a better term, metal plates. And what they are is the input, the output. All right. So you can put energy into it and multiply it. Or you can just put it on the output and it'll tap straight to the vacuum. That's the difference. The regular 0-point energy devices, a lot of them turn certain amount into this amount from the input to output percentage. Then you have other that just, pull straight from the vacuum. This one pulls straight from the vacuum and enhances it, right? So let's say you have a vehicle and you want to put it onto the output and it's called the demand. So you put the demand on there and immediately you'll see that the charged dark matter, as you would call antimatter, little ball, you'll start seeing that the liquid around it starts spinning. And the ball starts spinning so fast that you can't even with a microscopic lens, you would not be able to compute how fast the thing is spinning. And then the other liquid around it starts turning into like a pinkish color. Now, this I read in the description. And as you do that, the more the demand you put on it, the wires around the edges start expanding. Okay, and they'll expand and expand and expand until they hit their max. But it never goes over like 79 degrees, I believe, so it'll never overheat. It emanates a signal, which is theorized that it was tapping into a satellite, an extraterrestrial satellite. But that's not the case. We found out later that's not the case. It was tapping into just nearby ships in case it needed that type of connectivity. But it doesn't need that to work. It just emanates that in general, almost like a homing beacon, like a GPS. So what it does is you can power anything from like a cell phone to a city using this one thing. So if you think about that, short term, what we could do is still use the natural grid, because you asked me how I would implement this, how I would make it practical. So you could use the natural power grid that's already there, turn off all the nuclear power plants, turn off all the coal plants, everything that emanates any type of exhaust into the atmosphere, everything, and just hook up a larger version of this. And you hook up 4 of these for each region of the United States, and then eventually, obviously, all of the world. And you never have to run out of energy. You never have to worry about it having any adverse effects. You never have to worry about it overheating or turning off. You never have to recharge anything. And you never have to worry about paying for it. But obviously, let's talk reality. These power companies, they're still going to want to pay. They're still going to want you to pay. But you would be able to pay less. Then we have to come up with a job for all the workers that just went out of business, for the coal plants and the nuclear power plants, and that can be done. That can be done. There's different things you can implement along these lines, because these things still need to be built. You can pay to train these people. You can pay them to learn how to build these things, and then you can have them build them, and then they can use them to then sell them to the car company. And then these car companies could then utilize them to where it wouldn't matter the horsepower. You could even still use turbos to bring the air in, using electricity to bring that in and make an air combustion engine. Air combustion wouldn't be the proper term, because it wouldn't be fire, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you could pump air through something to make the piston go up and down, and use air pressure instead of explosions. And you could do that by having these turbos push this air through with these electrical things that never run out of power. You could use generators with the same technology, call them bi-power and tri-power, tri-battery, whatever, in your basement where it doesn't have exhaust, so you don't have to worry about keeping the generator outside or it being loud, and you could just use these things to power your house endlessly. Now those would just be generators, let alone if they allowed you to actually have one of these actual PVEDs in your house, so something like the size of your thumb that could just power your house, where you wouldn't have to worry about a grid anymore. Just a whole bunch of different things where you could do this. Like they want these drones that that are battery powered that can, have people in them and stuff. Okay, well, we could use anti-gravity propulsion technology, UFO technology, but let's say we still want to use airlift. Okay, use that with these batteries. You'll never have to worry about them dying, and you could just always use them. There's a bunch of things you could do. Do you have any questions with that? I know that was a lot. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't, but it is a beautiful explanation, and I absolutely believe that stuff exists. Aaron, did you have any questions?
No, not at this point, but that's fascinating.
So the reality of this technology ever seeing the light of day? I know we're kind of at the cusp right now where this stuff is being leaked out. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having these conversations. It's becoming more widespread knowledge, but we're in the middle of this, obviously a war in some capacity, where I would almost call it a custody battle for the planet. I don't know how you want to put it, but it seems like there's a transition of power occurring, and there's moves and counter moves and order of operations before this stuff can even be implemented. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I would definitely say that there's no transfer of power. There's no change in power. There's just an awakening of who the power is, and then a lot of deception wrapped around it. So you have the Magi Committee by way of MJ12. That's the power. That is the power. That is big pharma. That is big oil. That is big checks. That is big everything. Anything they don't want to happen, it won't. If they don't want it to happen bad enough. If they didn't want Trump to be president bad enough, he wouldn't be. If they wanted Kamala to be president bad enough, then she would be. That's how these people operate. Just like when they didn't want Saddam Hussein in there, they took care of it. When he wouldn't play ball, they got rid of him. When he wouldn't give them access to what they needed around that area, they got rid of him. And the same thing will continue to happen. And even after, this technology gets implemented. And the thing is, this technology is planning to be implemented. All these things are planning to be told to you just in a very deceptive way, following fake alien invasion and reconvening of everything, while implementing the GFL inclusion by the end of 2027. So these technologies will then be normal. Walking around with aliens will be normal. They'll just be labeled the good aliens because we defeated the bad aliens with their help, which really we just defeated fake aliens, and these were just the real aliens the whole time. There's not a lot to tell. There's always going to be somebody who knows. There's always going to be somebody who tells you afterwards. There will always be somebody to come forward, but there's always going to be that deceptiveness that's going to blind the majority of the people. The majority of the people are always going to be like, well, come on. They wouldn't get away with that. That's the biggest, bulletproof vest is the people thinking that they're too smart for this to happen to them. That's a very conceited way to look at things, but they're very good at what they do. They are very good at what they do. They've had a lot of practice. Okay.
Right. It's the mentality like Elon Musk on Joe Rogan. He's asked about free energy and advanced propulsion technology, and he says, no, if it existed, I would know about it. Like, I mean,
right.
Either he's
No,
instructed either he's paid to say that, or he's quite literally been left in the dark intentionally. And
he actually believes that.
Yeah, he
His
actually believes
ego.
it. Right. But that's a perfect example of being like too smart to even learn.
Right.
Because you think you already know it.
And that's the thing. That's so funny because I was having this conversation with my fiance a couple weeks ago. We were agreeing with each other that, the smartest thing that a smart person can do is know that they can still learn something every day. And for somebody to act like that, it just like, of course, Elon Musk is intelligent. I don't have anything, against his intelligence. But when it comes to him acting like he would know, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't know that at all because they need you. they need you to keep using archaic rocket technology that explodes every time you throw it into space, so they can keep telling people that's too dangerous. So they can keep telling people to discourage them from trying to go up there and do shit that's not on their time, that's not on their dime. And then when they want you to go transport something, they'll use you. When they want to make sure that there's a hologram, and I know it sounds crazy to the skeptics, but it's the truth. And we want to throw a hologram up there real quick to show you, to block out what's actually there on your way to the space station, so that you have no idea what's flying around you. They're going to use you. He has no idea what's going on. If I could have 2 hours with Elon Musk in private, I guarantee you, as long as he wasn't hard-headed, he would scrap everything he's doing and start over with this new technology, because I can break it down for him like I did it in the last episode. I can break it down for him in a way to where his experts would be able to build it. They could even start off with just doing it with electricity and build flying disc simulators that we had back in the 50s. I could break that down for him. And you could type in what I had, given into a very advanced AI, which he is very good at building, and work out the kinks, and you could have one of these things. He could build one of these things if he would just stop for 1 second and stop acting like he's, has the most advanced rocketry technology in the world. Fuck rockets. Rockets is like literally riding around on a horse and trying to race a Corvette. Like it's
Right.
irrelevant. It's archaic. It's stupid.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
So you mentioned holograms. So let's talk about hologram technology, and then I also want to get into cloning, the reality of cloning. And I know that was, I know they ran into a cloning facility on Serpo, which we can then bring the conversation towards Serpo.
True indeed. That was the very James McKeever. Yeah, he didn't count that while he was there, Team Commander 102. Okay, so before cloning, wanted to first touch on, what was it again? You broke it out.
Hologram technology?
Hologram technology. Okay. So hologram technology, we have the most advanced hologram technology that we have is owned by NASA and known as Bluebeam. People have turned that into a conspiracy theory and acts like Bluebeam is an entire operation. It's not. It is just one technology that will be used as a very small cog in the wheel to make thousands of ships look like tens of thousands by using hologram technology. It was also floated the idea of projecting Jesus Christ into the sky for the whole world to see, to try to convince everybody that one world government is the thing to do. And I did not see that was approved, but just, the manipulation involved with the mind of one of the MJ-12 members sitting around the table from the transcripts of the conversation that I read should just go to show you how fucked up these people are. Mm-hmm. So that technology has the ability to make it look like somebody is standing right next to you, to where you will have a full conversation with them. And then you could have the hologram make them get shot in the face right in front of you, and the blood spatter on you, and you will think it hit you. And then you won't, later on, you'll remember, I didn't even feel that shit hit me. That's crazy. That blood just hit me and I didn't even feel it. And where's it at, matter of fact? It's gone now. And you'll try to rationalize it in your mind because of how real it looks. And we've been using dumbed down versions of that holographic technology since way before that, since the 1950s, to make hangars look like mountains, or to wrap around the earth, to where if you don't have the proper technology to see through it, when you use these high-powered telescopes that are land-based, if they don't want you to see a star system, you won't see it. You'll see what they want you to see in that star system. No transit lights where you can see all the planets. I said last time to use the Gemini telescope down in Chile to see the Zeta Reticuli star system, but it's very good possibility they're not going to let you see that you're going to just see a star or two stars. They have the technology to hide everything, just like the backside of the moon. Anytime there's a probe going back there, all you're going to see is craters and stuff. You might get lucky and see a couple of shapes where it could be, talked about or guessed upon, but you're not going to see what's really back there. I mean, you have skyscrapers back there. You can't hide those unless you have something over top of them. And so you would have to literally land in. The public acclamation program actually put this technology into a movie, and that movie was Black Panther. And you could go look at that. That's a real technology. And it was funny because they used another real technology for the craft that was flying, how she put her hands on the controls and controlled it with her mind. That's the technology of ETE2, the Roswell speech. That's how it works. And they'd use suits where the biology interacts with the craft itself. And with this live skin sometimes that envelops the craft. That's a thing too. And they put these things in these movies. So they tell you without telling you, so you're ready when they actually tell you. The public acclamation program. And so, yeah, that technology, that hologram technology that makes it look like wood, and then they go in and all of a sudden it's like Wakanda forever. That's real. It's just told in a fictional way.
Right. So it reminds me of the people who claim that our moon is a hologram and it's like a plasma thing. And sometimes, like in certain light and certain times of day or night, you can see through it. It would appear transparent. But what I'm gathering is that it could be a result of the technology that's being used to create these holographic overlays to keep us seeing or keep us from seeing something they are hiding from us.
Bingo. You hit the nail on the head. Let me ask you this. Do you know that the moon is real?
Do I know that it's real? Is that what you said?
Do you believe that the moon is real?
Sure.
Okay. Do you know why the moon is approximately 5 times larger than what we know would form around a planet this size?
Because it's artificial and it was brought here. It's a ship.
That's incorrect. And
Okay.
that was, and I knew you were going to say that. Let me tell you why. I read that CIA document where the CIA put that out. They purposely put that out because if the truth comes out of why that moon is 5 times larger than what would normally form around a planet this size, then they would have to reveal where that moon came from. And in doing so, they would then have to reveal where Earth came from. And then by doing that, they would have to reveal where both those species came from and how we were able to know that took place. So, no time like the present. Would you like to know the answer?
Of course, of course. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what you read.
Okay, this is in the CIA Group 6 caretaker manual. And this dates back a while, right before Reagan administration, late 70s. And this has been known for a while. And this has been corroborated by dozens of extraterrestrial species. And we have recovered histories from the Nibiruan that is still classified to this day. And those tablets that were discovered, that's minimal compared to the details in which we have. And this has been corroborated by Yellow Book technology and other technologies looking back in time. I'm about to tell you 100% facts. And you can use actual science to go look and find evidence right now, is what I'm saying. So when the solar system was formed about 4.6 billion years ago, Earth did not exist. The fact is, Earth did not exist. There was another planet. Mars was the third planet up. Jupiter was still the fifth. There was another planet about 5 times the size of Earth. It was called you would call a super Earth. It had oceans in it. Everything you find here, it had there. It was between Mars and Jupiter. That's a fact. Okay. The Sumerian, there we go. They refer to it as Tiamat. And they got that from the Nibiruans. The Nibiruans believe in planets actually being alive to the degree of consciousness, not just alive like it grows. So they gave them names. They revere them as gods while still understanding as what they call a creator of all things. So they call it Tiamat. 3.9 billion years ago, Nibiru was making a pass on its elliptical elongated orbits. It takes about 3,400 and some odd years, and it's not 36. It's about 3,400 years and change to come all the way around. And when you're a planet that crosses the orbit of other planets, revered, it's not a matter of if you collide with something or come too close with something. It's a matter of when. Okay, so after 3.9 billion years, or not after 3.9 billion years ago, but after several hundred million years of going through this circuit, as they call it, it eventually came way too close to this planet. And instead of colliding with it, because Nibiru is humongous, by the way, you think Jupiter's big. This thing is big. And it had 11 moons. And I'm sorry, no, I apologize. It had 10 moons. Tiamat had 11 moons. So one of the 10 moons, one of the largest moons of Nibiru, smashed into Tiamat and broke it into two pieces. This is in the history of the Nibiru. They watched this happen, and it affected their entire planet because they lost the moon in the process. Fucked their whole gravity. It fucked a lot of things up. They had to counter a lot of things, a lot of grow seasons, a lot of everything. Their weather fucked everything. Their tides. So this moon cracked this planet in two pieces. One a very large piece, and then another one about the fifth the size, and it cut it into the shape of like a C, right? To where the bottom of it still had some of the core from the planet itself. So this moon kept coming around and crashing into it, and then the moon would break, and then those pieces would break and crash into each other, and then so the pieces that was about 5 times the size started to kind of float off a bit, and those 11 moons that were around Tiamat started to crash into those pieces and crash into each other and break into other pieces. But one of those moons started to move off and get pulled along with this piece that was about 5 times the size. And both of these pieces started rocketing towards the sun. And they were towards the side of the sun. They were going to go past the sun. But instead it got caught to the sun's gravity, and it pulled it into an oval-shaped orbit. So after about 100 million, 200 million years, it started to be more of a circular orbit. And it's just two pieces at this point. And they're just going around and going around. A couple 100 million more years. Now this moon is starting to circle around this rock that is now, due to the UV rays coming off, to activate the core that was still in it, so to speak. I mean, that's very layman terms. It started to create an atmosphere after a couple 100 million years, and then everything that used to grow on the larger planet then started growing again, and then weather started to form, or weather first, and then everything started growing again. Things that were fossilized due to the explosion, started to have those microbes come out again, and things that we don't even think possible life started to happen again. After about, about 1.5 billion years, we finally have an ecosystem again. Meanwhile, all that debris was then left over. And you're like, well, there's got to be evidence of that. What do you think the asteroid belt is? That's what that is. Why do you think every single asteroid in the asteroid belt matches everything that's on this planet? They try to act like it's all that ring down, and there's an asteroid, a meteor shower from all these asteroids from the asteroid belt, and that's how everything was seeded here. That's how gold was seeded here. No. It's because we came from all the same shit. All that stuff came from the same thing. These comets that are in our solar system, they're like the larger pieces off the moons and things that ricocheted out and came back. That's what they're from. They're from this collision. And if you dig down anywhere on this planet, anywhere, you go down to what would equate to 3.9 billion years worth of soil, you will come to an ash line that lasted so long. It took hundreds of thousands of years to where the planet was on fire everywhere. And they think that was a meteor shower. They think that was something like a catastrophic type of meteor shower. It wasn't. That was that impact where the entire thing. You go to any of the asteroids and dig down deep, you'll find that same ash line. You'll find it. As long as you have a large enough piece of the debris to where it was part of that, where the ash line was at. You'll go anywhere on this planet, you'll find that. That's scientific proof. You can go down 3.9 billion years. You'll find that. It's there. It exists. And that moon then settled around our planet. And then the way that the natural mathematics works in the universe, it positioned itself just the perfect distance away to where the moon is right there where it covers the sun during an eclipse. That's a natural thing. It's not a by happenstance and what are the odds of that? That's how these things form. That's how these things operate naturally. That's how God or the universe or the creator of all things made that to work mathematically. So that's why it went to that perfect distance on its own as it finally settled around something that turned into a planet from a planet that was destroyed. And that's why that moon is 5 times larger than what would form around a planet this size, because it's from an original planet that we broke off of that was 5 times the size. That's why.
That's why.
Wow.
So yeah, that's definitely fascinating. It definitely goes against some of the other common narratives out there about how our moon was brought here and uh, you know, essentially piloted, and it's hollow, and it's a satellite, and there's obviously everything's debatable, but I really appreciate that explanation, and I guess I would say I'm more impressed that you remember all that just from reading the document. Actually, your memory in general impresses me. If I read all that document, all that information that many years ago, I'd probably forget it. But yeah,
I hear you. And it's funny because I told my girl the other day, man, I forgot more than I know. It's been a couple weeks actually. I forgot more than I know, to be honest. But one of the things my handling agent always told me when he was my childhood mentor was, I have a photographic or videographic memory. I remember details to a degree to where it's not like I would want it to be, where I can just like pick up a document, look at it for 2 seconds, put it down, and I remember all the words. Not like that. It's where if I study it, I remember it, and I remember it forever. Now, if I do forget something, it'll be because I didn't spend enough time on it, or if it was an in between, or if it was a segue, or something along those lines, or I might have it reignited in my memory if I run across a leaked document that I remember. Like, oh, that was part. I remember that. That's a real document. Or if I see something opposite that I know is fake, it'll trigger what was real, or so to speak. But a lot of that I think helped because I was receiving verbal briefings on what I was reading. Because I'm a verbal listener, a verbal learner as well. So if that wasn't taking place, I don't think I would remember half the shit.
right. Yeah, it's interesting, and this is a comment that was brought up during the last episode. What are the chances? And I'm only doing this. I'm only saying this just for the audience. What are the chances that they gave you files to read that were also misinformation or disinformation in that case? So you would share this information and start spreading more false info. What do you think the chances of that happening are?
And I've actually addressed that before. It's a good question, though, because you got to ask something. Because if you don't ask, then you can't get the answer, right? So here's what I would say. These briefings took place over 9.5 years with no intentions of me coming forward, with every intention of me going and being part of this secret space program. And that was unbeknownst to me. I found that out later. After I was kicked out of the program, I found that out, which is recently I found that out. So like last year. So another thing is you don't classify things. You don't make things classified to hide fictional stories, right? And these things still aren't being leaked. Even when they do get leaked, they get leaked in a deceptive way to where I got to come forward and correct it. If they wanted to have that information out there when they and put it out there in a deceptive way, then they would be doing that. They wouldn't be letting me see what really happened and then releasing a deceptive version of it to where I need to correct it. Right. So, and again, I knew my handling agent before he was my handling agent. That's my childhood mentor. And right now, I won't say who specifically. There's a couple. I've been working with Air Force intelligence to try to get AFOSI to agree not to postpartumly prosecute my handling agent for including highly classified things he was not cleared to include as part of the operation. And we wouldn't have to be going through that if it was fake. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't have to be going through that. And it's my position that he included those things because he was trying to get me to infiltrate the secret space program so I could bring it down and expose all it. Because he was telling me things that I wasn't supposed to. It wasn't part of Operation Society. Some of the Serpo information was, not all of it. Some of the MJ12 shit was, but a lot of it not. Why would they want me to know about all the assassination programs and the details of what really happened to JFK? Why would they want me to know that? They wouldn't really know that. Certain things about the technology, they damn sure don't want me to know about that. So a lot of the things he wasn't cleared to include, and I found that out later. So we're currently trying to get them to agree to that before we can release his real birth certificate name. That way his his wife and kids that survived him, they don't need that pension because he died back in 2018. And if we can get them to agree to that, then it won't just be his covert name, Robert May, that we'll release his real identity. But until they agree to that, I'm not doing it because, we can't have his family lose that pension. They live off that. And I would never, soil his memory in that manner because he did what he did for a positive reason. He didn't do it to try to betray his country. He did it to try to save his country because he knew it was coming.
Interesting. Thanks for explaining that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the only caveat, the only thing I would say that is worthy of consideration, which I don't think is the case with you after hearing you explain that, but we have heard that, like at Area 51, in the Sands of Time material, they talk about somebody was basically from within was stealing files. So they started putting false programs, false misinformation in their own vault. When it was stolen, people thought they were stealing files and documents and programs that don't even exist.
Yeah. Now that's a real thing. And I've been told that a long time ago. It's like, to be honest with you, that happens all the way down to the street level. You have like certain, and it's because of the situation I live in, you have certain gangs that, throughout the 90s and 2000s, they would put fake information on the internet. That way they knew if you're in this, you know what you're supposed to know. But if you know this information, we know you just got on the internet and looked at it. So it's the same type of deal. And I know that's a hell of a metaphor or comparison, but it's the truth. And it's the same thing. I'm definitely told that that's it. But that had nothing to do with the operation of others. And there's always going to be a devil's advocate type of take.
Yeah.
It just gets to the point where you have to finally say, let's look at the collection of information that this individual has put out there. And let's look at this with an open mind. And let's look at every single thing he said, all his releases, there's dozens, all his releases of operations, file numbers, dates, times, events, locations, things that I've released about Roswell that didn't get released until Elizondo put his book out there because he's part of the tell them the truth so they can then begin to believe the lie later on plan that we'll get to here in a minute. I said that there was 2 craft, not 1, not 3. Dr. Greer keeps saying 3. He's wrong. Not 3. He keeps thinking that the crash that happened a month and a half before Roswell was Roswell. It's not even the same species, let alone the same crash. That was ETE-1 from the Rigel Stars mission. They're biomechanical. Those are the 4 fingers with suction cups on the end. That's them. That happened May 31st of 1947. The plane to St. Augustine, New Mexico. That was not Roswell. But when he got that document, and he saw that there were 3 craft that crashed in New Mexico in 1947, and knowing that's a legitimate document, he's believing that's Roswell because it says New Mexico and it says 1947. That's not Roswell. It was 2 crafts. So then Elizondo finally comes out, and he's pushing that narrative, but he includes real information with it about Roswell while acting like they're a threat to national security when they're not. But he knew it was only 2 crafts. And I went even further and said that second craft, that went down and it took back off, it crashed again in Dayton, New Mexico. It went down again, and he didn't even include that. I included that. So there's so many details to where I included things that never been released. Like to this day, I'm the only person that's ever released the ETE designation, the ETE classified scale of star system by number in order of first contact. ETE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. I've released the first 8. That's never been done. Ever been done. and there's so many things I've put together for people to where if you really just sit back and you're like, you know what, let's take a look objectively and see, is there any substance to this? There's no way. I could sit there and study UFOlogy for 10 years and not come up with this. There's 20 different accounts of every story. How do I get the one account every single time? And people really just, if they utilize that and leave that I guess we'll call it natural skepticism alone, and just accept it that there's somebody out there that's finally telling you the truth, or at least telling you something you can look at to see if you believe it or not. You'd be surprised what you come up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I understand. I mean, we've been lied to for so long. You have to understand why people are skeptical when we hear new stuff, and it's hard to decide. Okay, this is the true story because there's so much out there. Like, the whole goal is to blur the lines so we don't know what's going on, and keep us in the dark. But we appreciate what you're doing, and it's absolutely fascinating everything that you're sharing with us. And I do want to segue into what you know about clones and the cloning facility. I only imagine that if we ran into a cloning facility on Serpo, that we somehow implemented that here on Earth, and we're cloning people here on Earth too.
Yeah, that's a fact. So the team member that died on the way there, because he kept leaving what I call the fishbowl technology, and that only becomes from the transcripts from the audio journal, and actually the written journals from that point, from Team Commander 102 that was writing down things he saw while he was on the craft. He described what they had to stay in as the fishbowl. So I call it fishbowl technology because nowadays it's actually within the craft itself, where we no longer have to do that. So we have fishbowl technology that is inside the walls of all the craft now for our biology to be able to travel through these time tunnels, these wormholes. So when that individual kept getting out, he had a pulmonary embolism and he died. And when they got to the planet, Team Commander 102, he went to who they called EBE1, which wasn't our EBE1. EBE1 for them was the main commander of that starship, and said to them, where's our fallen comrade at? Where's his body? And they said, well, we did something with it, like we always do. What do you mean? And he's like, what? Take me to see that now. I want his body now. No matter how long they looked at us or studied us, that civilization, as far as what was on that starship and what was in that village, they were not prepared for certain things about our customs, which is irresponsible of them. But they weren't prepared for the type of betrayal we were going to feel. I mean, we almost torpedoed the mission as soon as it started because he wanted to see that body. Where is my fallen comrade? These are military men. You know how that is. Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted dog tags. I want the body. Like, we don't leave no man behind. Where's he at? And so they took him to the other side of the planet where this DNA facility is at. And when he walked in there, it changed him. I read the transcripts of his own words, and then by this time it was audio journal. And it took 8 years to type all this stuff up after they came back. And I'm telling you, this man was changed by what he saw. He saw animals that were sliced together to make new animals. He saw humans. He saw other beings and insectoids and reptilians, and the things he saw from this species made him believe they weren't as benevolent as he originally briefed that they were, but they really are that benevolent. But you have to understand, this species doesn't see life the same way we do, because not every species is going to see value the same way we do. They see value as to, after somebody dies, what can we make out of him to continue the legacy of the individual, to give them purpose after they pass. We don't see it that way. We want to put them in the ground and pray over a piece of rock that stands above with their name on it, so we feel more connected to them because we miss them. Okay, I get it. I feel that same shit. But they don't see it that way. And what they did was they created a brand new species out of his DNA. And they took him to see that being, or creature as it was called in style, and it shook him to the fucking core. So he got the remains that were left. They gave him that. That was actually not in what was leaked. They did give him what was left of the body. It was like some expenditures. The brain was gone. The head was gone. That was the main thing they used. DNA was gone for the most part. But they gave him certain parts, we'll just say. And he took that back and he buried it. He buried it right there on the same. Now, that was brought back in 1978. That was studied by 599, I believe. I have the name actually in the notes on X, but I can't access that right now because my girl has me in here. But that biology expert studied this technology. It took notes and brought it back in 1978. And we saw the first civilian version of that in the early 1990s. You know what that was?
What's that?
What?
You ever heard of Dolly the sheep?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. That was the first civilian version of the Serpo cloning classified technology brought back. And that was in like 1993 or something. That was the early 1990s. By 1995, I saw a file that dated to 1995 or 94, I believe, about creating the super soldiers that regrow lost limbs from scratch, that have their pain sensories turned off, and that never need to sleep, and that are super strong, and that they're creating these things on assembly lines using that cloning technology. And in other files that I saw from 2001, I've actually never revealed this, from 2001, where they talked about cloning individuals within the government at the age they were at, and then letting those clones live out the rest of their life while using GMS technology to reverse age and extend lifespans of the individual that they just cloned at that old age, so then they could go on and go part of the secret space program and just go to another location. We have dozens of different planets that we have colonies with. They just go somewhere else, and they still have authority. And that's because these people they're lifelong appointments. They want these same individuals running the show because it'll keep the same mindset. It'll keep the same plan. They don't have to worry about anything. And those are the individuals that we see at the funerals. We see deteriorating, and they actually believe that they're the person. They don't even know. Them clones don't know. They have no idea. They have no idea. Gee, I guarantee you, George H.W. Bush did not die in 2018. I guarantee you. He was MJ1. He's MJ1. He's in control of the technology. He's not going to just waste away like that. I guarantee you, 2-3 years prior to that, he cloned himself. The clone had no idea. The clone was still operating as MJ1 while he went off and did his own thing and reverse aged. I would bet my ridiculously long away release date on that. I'm telling you, there's no way he would just do that. He died. You know what I'm saying? Like, you watch him die. Like, he's MJ1. He's not going to just let himself die when he has access to this technology. But he's not going to stay MJ1. His time as MJ1 was over. So as that clone died, it was passed on to Dick Cheney. Now Dick Cheney's going to do the exact same thing and then pass that on to whoever MJ2 is. And then again, same thing over and over and over. And whoever that is going to be the head of the table for the UN Security Council for the new, at this point, New World Order. But what I hope is not New World Order, but just a one world government.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, actually. We've done a whole deep dive on clones. We did a whole webinar on it. And we even came up with some evidence that would indicate that they were cloning before the 90s, which is plausible. If they already had an assembly line that you read about in 1994, they would have had to develop that technology at some point before then.
Yeah, they've been working on it since 78, and I know for a fact all through the 80s, they were trying to put wings on humans. They were trying to splice things with different extraterrestrial helpers at Dulce and these other 20 or 28 others, but 29 total subterranean bases. They've been working on this technology since 1980, after the final report was put together. 2 years after they came back. Since 1980, all the way up till Dolly the Sheep. And that was a civilian version. So you have to understand, they do not release things civilian-wise for us until over a decade in secret, sometimes more. So you're spot on. They've been doing it since 1980. Now let me ask you, the information that you have, how far back did it date?
Somewhere around that time, definitely around the 60s and 70s, because there was, I mean, actually, I would say it went back to World War II. We came across some information where they were trying to clone Hitler, and that was the movie Boys from Brazil actually is disclosure of that. And they even in the movie, they literally show you the cloning process in the movie. So this goes potentially back to World War II.
Well, that's very interesting because I know we didn't bring that technology back until 1978, but I do know that we've had technology available to us part of the 70-year contract. I wish I would have been able to see every single technological exchange. Unfortunately, I did not.
Right.
Cloning technology could have been one of them, and that's been in place since 1954. And I know for a fact that Hitler lived all the way up into the 80s down in Argentina. That is a fact. I know that. And I know that we know that. We knew that ever since literally a month after it happened because we got that information. Well, you know how we found that information out?
How?
The SAS from England. The SAS is way more involved than people think, like when they were still around. And their whole intelligence for London, they were more involved than we were for a very long time. MJ12 kind of took reign of all that decades ago, but they were the ones. They were the ones they're the reason why we had Operation High Jump. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
No.
Now who is that?
Because it was in.
Who's the SAS?
What does SAS stand for again? They're the special. They're basically like the Navy SEALs for British intelligence.
Okay.
They're basically the Navy SEALs for British intelligence. And that's what they were. It's special something. I can't remember. I wish I could remember. But if you look up SAS, you could just Google it. It'll tell you who they were. And I'll tell you right now, they actually did Operation Tanborn. I think it was called 1 and Tanborn 2, and that was the reason why we had Operation High Jump.
Wait, say that again.
They went to an
Operation. Is it the Operation Tiberan, like the one with the T? Tiberan? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now that was an SAS mission, specifically to infiltrate Antarctica and find the Nazi base where they stumbled across the reptilian base where the Nazis were located during Tamborn 2, the second mission they went down there for, and where only one survivor came back because the other ones died. And that was why Operation High Jump was put together. That's why Truman sent everybody down there, and that's why Truman said send this many aircraft, this many battleship, this many aircraft carrier, this many 3,000 soldiers, and this many, because he knew what was waiting on him when he got there. But he had this false sense of security because we had just dropped to atomic weapons. He thought we were king shit until he found out very quickly through Admiral Byrd we're not king shit when he got down there.
Right. Did you look
Yeah.
up what that stood for, Aaron?
Yeah, Special Air Service.
There you go. Yep, that's
Special
it.
Air Service. Yeah, we read about those operations, Tiberian, or however you say it, in the Serpo material that's available. You can find it online or in a book, but we covered that in another one of our webinars. And yeah, absolutely. It was intel that they gathered from those operations that was brought to Truman, which sparked Operation High Jump. That's actually
yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even know that was out there. Yeah, because I've read a lot of the Serpo books, but I didn't read the beginnings. I didn't get to read the beginning of the secret journey to planet Serpo because I just wanted to go straight to the Serpo information and see if they got it right or not. You're telling me that was in the beginning where they were talking about the Nazis and stuff?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
No shit.
Yeah, and there's a separate book written on it too that I have not read.
Really?
But there is another book written on it that's out there.
Well, I can't sit there and say everything they said because I didn't read it, but I can tell you that that's what they said. Just that one detail. That is a fact. That is a fact. That's what happened.
Yeah. That's absolutely fascinating about the cloning stuff. I mean, I think it plays a bigger role than people understand right now in politics. And like half of the people that we see aren't even the original host anymore. We're watching clones run the world, or at least the illusion.
I have a question for you because my baby Autumn brought something up to me a couple days ago, and she didn't have a stance one way or the other, but she brought something to my attention. She said Trump does not seem like Trump, and she was somebody. I'm telling you what, you go to her Instagram, you'll see she was vote Trump, vote Trump, vote Trump. She's fully trying to get him in office, but once he got in office, she sees something a little different. And so I asked her, I said, do you think maybe he's a clone? That was my idea, not hers. Let me put that out there. So I asked her, do you think he's a clone? And she didn't take, one side or the other, but she's very intelligent. She's the most intelligent person I know. So she really mulled it over for a second. We talked about it, and I won't say what we came up with. That's our business. But I will say this. I found the conversation very interesting because I know those things take place. I know for a fact they take place. My only question is, what would they need him for in order to have the real version of him kept to the side unless he's been working with MJ-12 the whole time? And when I say whole time, I mean since his first term. And the only thing I can remember coming up with is he was such an advocate for big oil. And I know big oil was ran by MJ-12. I know that for a fact. Some of the CEOs are even on the Magi. I know that. I saw that with my own eyes. I've seen that. So, like ExxonMobil, their own Magi committee has seen that. So I'm wondering, is he? So I want to get your take before we get into how to prepare people from what's coming. Or do you think Trump is a clone now? Do you think? What do you think?
I think it's entirely possible, I think we'd be slowly ruled out. And,
very interesting.
I've heard, there's a million conspiracy theories about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit here and, spot off a few different narratives I've heard about Trump.
There's people that say the color of the tie that he's wearing means which Trump it is and which one's a clone, one's real. Like, there's all kinds of theories.
Right.
Now that type of symbolism I would take with a grain of salt. But just, okay, what she pointed out to me was the eyes. There was a different feel when you look in his eyes. What do you think? What do you see?
I mean, I guess I haven't stared at him close enough to compare, but I've definitely seen the Trump that's always like golfing at Mar-a-Lago. That's clearly a different body. I mean, that's even like people who aren't conspiracy theorists will say that he looks a little different. So I mean, we know they have body doubles and lookalikes and stuff. So that might be the case there. I think at this point, all of the above is possible. I don't rule anything out. What actually is taking place, I don't know. We can only speculate.
I don't know either. I want to make that very clear. And my fiance doesn't know either, and she'll tell you that. Well, she'll tell me that. uh, she just I don't know. She brought it to my attention because she knows I know the information, and I thought it was such an interesting conversation. And like I said, she's the most intelligent person I know. So when she brings that to my attention, that's gonna get my attention. And so I started to mull it over. And since she said that, I started watching, and I have noticed a few things. So again, could be nothing. Could be somebody just motivating him in the background, saying, "Hey, we need to present yourself a different way." Sure, but it could be something else because I know for a fact that stuff takes place. But let's cap this off. If you guys are with it, to go ahead and get into to prepare for what's coming. So I obviously have for the new listeners have to take 5 minutes to tell them what's coming and then go from there.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we got what
Yeah.
20 minutes left or so. So let's go ahead and yeah, just bring it home. Let's do this. And yeah, I'm very curious to hear as well.
All right. So in a very, very, very short version, in a nutshell, for those that don't know, I would say go back to listen to episode 352 of this. Go to @TruthPod24. Look at my highlight section. You'll find quite a few posts about this. Excuse me. So it'll be very clear. It's not called Operation Bluebeam. Bluebeam is just a holographic technology that's been around since the 1980s. It makes thousands of crafts look like tens of thousands. The operation name itself, I do not remember. The operation itself, details of, is this: destabilize the world, pit everybody against themselves, start World War III, interrupt World War III with a fake alien invasion. Just when everybody thinks, everything's at the lowest point, civil war and everything, that's when you hit them with the fake alien invasion. And then you do all that so a couple months in, and the UN can put together communications again and release a statement saying, look, we need to come together as a common species to fight a common enemy. We need to put our borders to the ground and our petty differences to the side. So from now on, we'll be known as the United Nations, under the United Nations banner, under God himself, whatever God and we're gonna beat these aliens. We're gonna beat them. We're gonna save off annihilation and all this Independence Day script from the public acclamation program. And we're going to sit there and we're gonna give it a good fight. The Galactic Federation of Light is gonna come down and take people out of here and save them in the name of Jesus and all this other stuff, and take them up to the sky and then save them because they're the chosen people. And ETE2 will do the same thing, and we'll label them the good aliens that helped us defeat the bad aliens, when really it's just the fake aliens, and those are just the real aliens. And then by the end of 2027, we will be inducted into the Galactic Federation of Light because we now reached the level of maturity that we've required to be in there, and that is a one world government. With that, the deadline we were given 3 years after the 70-year contract runs out, which ran out September 24th of last year. So then by the end of 2027 is when the deadline is. If not, they leave us to our own volition, our own to fend for ourselves against tranaloids, which we do not want. So that's why we're doing it. The only problem is MJ12 and the Magi Committee's plan to get us there is genocidal, and we do not need to do all that in order to get there. So I've been trying to stop it from coming. I've been trying to prepare people. The only way to stop it is to make everyone aware. MJ12's biggest and only weakness is the unity of the people that they've purposely separated with the Willie Lynch syndrome. Pick this person against this person, this religion against this religion, this color against this color, this financial backing against this financial backing, so forth and so on. This politics, this political view against this political view, CNN versus Fox News. That's what they've been doing on purpose. To divide you, because divide and conquer is the old Williams syndrome from the slave days. That's what they've been implementing. That's what they've been doing. So, in case we are too stupid and ignorant and hard-headed to come together as a species to stop what's coming and start picketing outside Congress to get this done, to identify, detain, and replace the MJ12 and Magi Committee so we can stop this, let's say we fail. And let's say this comes anyway. World War III and fake alien invasion over multiple years up until the end of 2027. What do we do to survive? I was having a conversation with my fiance and my mother a couple of weeks ago, And they told me one of the most important things is, what if you can't stop it? You need to tell people how to prepare. I said, you're absolutely right. They're both right. You're absolutely right. So that's what I want to end this off with. So there's three different categories that I would, because of the societal categories that already exist, I'll just use those. So the first category is, if you're anywhere from homeless to what is known as lower middle class, I don't like using that, but just for argument's sake, what's known as that, small town tourist. So, sounds crazy, but it's underground. Most of it's under concrete on macadam. Most of it is steel reinforced. So you got to find a sewer system in a small town. I say small town because they're going to be less targeted. Those going to be targeted because they're less targeted. And then, so you'll be underground and you'll be protected from the majority of the particle beam weaponry and the acoustical weaponry that'll be used along with World War III. That prequels that, which you'll know that's coming as soon as the Dome of the Rock in Israel gets destroyed to usher in biblical prophecy. You'll know that. So once you see that, start scoping out sewer systems. And what you do is you fortify it, you supply it. And the things that you'll need to supply it: canned goods, non-perishables. And to be honest, I think everyone should go get one of those roll-up solar panels with that regular outlets in them that you can find. You used to be able to find them at Walmart. I'm sure you can find them anywhere now. Or maybe Best Buy. I mean, just Google it. Maybe Amazon. These are roll-up solar panels where it collects all the energy throughout the day. And then they have little outlets on them, and you can use those to then use an electrical stove. So you want to get electrical stoves for camping, not propane. You're down there in the sewer system. You don't want to be down there lighting fires all day long. I don't think it would just blow up all of a sudden because of the methane, but you don't want to risk it. So you want to get electrical stoves, okay? And you use those to safely recharge those from the manholes. You find a rhythm. You're down there. You're going to be able to find a rhythm to when it's safe to put those solar panels right underneath the manhole during the day while the sun's up, be able to catch and fill it up with some, to recharge it, to fill it up with some electricity. And then you want, like I said, non-perishables. You want rechargeable batteries, rechargeable battery kits. You're going to want flashlights. They take rechargeable batteries. You're going to want an abundance of protein and calories. And then you got to think, you're going to want to take care of yourself. You need soap. You need toilet paper. A whole lot of bottled water. That's going to be the most important thing is bottled water. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of bottles of that. So if you're poor or you're hungry, start stocking up now. Why not? Where are you going to put it? Somewhere. Find it. Take the initiative. Find it. Then you're also going to want a whole bunch of lighters because you might not stay down there the whole time, and you're going to need to be able to create fire when you go out scavenging. Razors. Why not? If you feel good about yourself and how you look, you'll feel good mentally. When you feel good mentally, feel good physically, then you react better to a situation when it occurs. So you got to be able to take care of yourself. You're also going to want some sort of game or entertainment to keep your mind sharp, to keep whoever you take down there with you. You got to be able to be entertained. This is not sci-fi. This is something that's real and legitimate. You got to be really on point. Also, oxygen machines. You can find those anywhere from scuba divers, places all the way to old folks' homes or medical equipment, hospitals. You want oxygen machines because down there eventually it might get a little thin. You might want to hook those up once a week. Get you some good oxygen while you're down there. That's important. So then that's category one. Category two, people that have money, but they're not rich, right? So you use either your savings or maybe a loan or some credit to purchase an abandoned missile silo or an underground bunker of some sort, right? But it's going to be kind of shitty. You got to spend some money to fix it up, fortify it as much as possible. Install an oxygen system, scrubber system for that oxygen system, purify water system. There's something that can last you until the end of 2027. That's when it'll stop. I'm telling you that for a fact. That's when it'll end. And just like in the sewer systems, I forgot to mention weaponry and ammunition. Weaponry and ammunition. You might say, well, they're conventional guns. Charles, what's that going to do? These PLFs they're still nuts and bolts. You shoot them with enough ammunition, they will go down. But you're not going to have to only worry about that. You're going to have to worry about other people trying to infiltrate and take what you have and kill you for what you have. So it's good to also, while you're in those dual systems, I should say this before I move back to part two, is take, if you can get your hands on a welder and some rebar, you should fortify it and put up bars to keep people out of both entrances to your little sewer area, to where only you and your manhole right there, and you know, you can build little doors on them and put little locks on them. I mean, it sounds like complex, but it's really not. It takes half a day and you're good to go. Now, with the second category of people that have money but you're not rich, weaponry and ammunition, why don't you also try to find an EMP generator? Because an EMP generator could stop one of these PLFs in their tracks. It'll have to reboot. You should also find laptops and see if maybe you have a hacker in the family. You know, because these hackers that get into phones and do all these other things, they're able to get into these PLFs as well. And if you could take one or two of these things and program them to be on your side, you know, that changes the game, because then they have access. And they have access to the system. They have access to these ARVs, the alien reproduction vehicles. You get a few of them, you can build a business. There's a lot you can do. You're not powerless. You just have to utilize what you have, and you have to start thinking about it now. And so all the supplies I mentioned above, you can also need for part two. Same thing with part three. The third situation is if you're rich. I hate when people just shame the rich just because they're rich. Now, if they're acting like an asshole, then shame them, I guess, being an asshole. But just because they have money doesn't mean they're not supposed to be spending it. So people that's going out and spending, you know, $50 million on a yacht, so what? They got the money. Why would they? If I had the money, I would, you know. So immediately, if you're rich, go immediately buy and build an underground super bunker with all the bells and whistles, everything. However, do not forget the very next part. Save as many people as you can. Otherwise, you fall into that asshole category. All the supplies you can think of, all the weapons you can think of, all the tech you can think of, everything money can buy. If you've got the money, do it. Save anybody that you know, that you can trust and not try to, you know, escape out of there and fuck everything up for everyone else that's down there. Put some leadership in place. You know, if you have the money, do that. And I know this sounds like it's getting a little sci-fi. It sounds like it might be getting into like, oh, well, that could be put into a book or a show, or the movie, you know, the show Silo or something like that. But listen to what I'm telling you. This is real step-by-step stuff that if you take it seriously, you will survive. Otherwise, if you get caught, I want to be very clear about something. If you survive on the surface and you get caught by the United States government ran by the Magi Committee at that point, you're going to be taken to what's known as a FEMA camp. FEMA camps have been being built for this operation. This operation is what they've been being built for. You go to any abandoned FEMA camp right now, there's over 200 of them. You will find big, huge plastic bins turned upside down outside the back of each and every single one of those, and those are from mass graves. Then you also find playgrounds in every single one of them where the fences are hurricane fences to keep people in like the prison I'm at, not to keep people out. I'm telling you, you do not want to be caught on the surface. You do not want to be caught by the United States government during this time. If you're going up to scavenge, you either scavenge and come back. Literally, go watch The Walking Dead for a while. Go watch Falling Skies for a while. Find out how to scavenge and come back. Now, that's fictional. You ain't going to have to worry about zombies eating you up. But imagine if those zombies were, you know, instead of that, they were gun-wielding government agents that are going to snatch you up in the name of national security and curfew and what's that thing they do when they implement after U.S. soil gets invaded? What is that called again?
Martial law.
Yeah,
martial law. In the name of martial law, puts you in these FEMA camps. You know, I'm a prisoner. And we're on the undesirables list as part of this operation. We're at the top of that list worldwide. So they're going to try to kill us off. I've come up with a few deterrents for that, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to survive while I wait for somebody to come get me. And in the meantime, there's two different versions of martial law. Regular martial law is just like curfew and stuff like that. Then you have where U.S. soil gets invaded type martial law, where all inmates and prisoners, federal and state, are supposed to be executed, so we don't join the opposition. Right now, the majority of people I know, they wouldn't. They would be fighting in the opposition, but it's just an excuse so they can execute their undesirables list because they don't want us to be part of what's coming afterwards. It's all about that. Haiti was on that undesirables list. There's some African nations like Congo that was on that undesirables list. A lot of ghettos and projects areas around the world were on the undesirables list. They don't want us around, right? So if you really look at all those things and you look at how to prevent all these things and all the steps I just gave you and the supplies that you're going to need, and then you took and you put even more to it. You'll go watch some documentaries on survivors. Go watch some prepper episodes. And put that with everything I just told you and understand of what's coming. Don't think that it's a bunch more than what it is. Not chemical warfare that's coming. It's what I told you that's coming. That's a fact. It's a fact. The files have been put together since the 60s. I saw another file in the 70s, which Jeremy Corbell recently admitted that he also saw the same file. But he didn't know that there was a final draft in the 1980s during the first Reagan administration. That's the last one that was put together. And as of 2012, that was the last one that was put together. And that's the one that I'm watching play out on the TV every day with Ukraine, with North Korea, with everything you see, with Taiwan, with China, with Russia. All of it is a script. The world stage is exactly that, a stage. This is real. This is the Magi Committee infiltrating everything you throughout, using the UN Security Council to do so at the direction of MJ-12, which is also national security. The National Security Council is where it all originated from through Truman. It's a real thing, not bullshit, not a psyop. The psyop is that it's fake. The psyop is this circle was fake and created by fucking Kit Green and Rick Doty. That's all psyop. The GFL being a psyop is a psyop. GFW is a psyop. You have to understand what's psyop and what's not before you start running around using that word. So, for everybody listening, if we can't come together and be mature about this and stop what's coming and take this serious, then those are the steps you need to take no matter what financial constraints you're in. And if you're rich, man, you need to save everybody you can.
Well, that was very detailed breakdown. Let's hope we don't get. I'd say that we wouldn't be having these conversations unless there wasn't really a chance of unity and avoiding that outcome. I think we can create that if we believe that we can. We have to understand that we create our reality. So just because it was written on paper in the 80s and the 70s doesn't mean it has to play out that way. And things change in the fog of war, and conversations like this could quite literally change the outcome because the information's the collective consciousness now. And if people tap into that and they know, just by knowing the future, you've changed it. That's been said by a lot of people. So this might mean quite literally that we are going to avoid it, the fact that you're telling us about it. So I would say it's good to be prepared, but don't live in fear. And, we have to stay positive as much as we can. Otherwise, what's the point? So I really appreciate you breaking that down for us, but let's just hope we don't get there.
And I agree with that. I'm still on the side of believing we can. But I want to make sure, in case we don't, people were prepared. Because I would feel like I let everybody down if I did. And at this moment, it is on schedule to happen. As we speak right now on this podcast, it is on schedule to still take place. Every single thing that was supposed to happen, I'm looking at it happening. And we can stop it. We can. There's no one else that can stop it. The people have to stop it. And we have to come together and create a unity like never before. And we have to force Congress, because believe it or not, they have the authority. They just don't know they have the authority because they don't even have the authority to know the clearance exists. But they have the authority to identify, detain, and replace MJ-12 and the Magi Committee. They do that. All the other world powers involved cease immediately. They stop. They will not carry this out without MJ-12 directives. That's a fact. But we have to identify, detain, and replace them. If we do not, and there are 12 of them, and there are about 300, little less than 300 on the Magi Committee. If we do not do that, this will happen. And it is right around the corner. We are running out of time. That's a fact.
Well, I say it's time to unite. Aaron, do you have any thoughts on that?
Exactly what you said. I'm hopeful. I think thank you for getting that message out there. And like Tyler said, it's good to be prepared rather than not for anything. But you can't live in fear at the end of the day, because in fact, if you do, you're going to end up, our energy is what ends up creating the reality that we experience. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy if you live in fear and if you're always afraid of the worst or something bad. That being said, I do believe you. I do think that is absolutely a plan, but plans don't equal something that's definitely going to happen. I do think there are higher forces at play here that are way above any of those guys and all their plans, and even a lot of the ETs. Like there's different levels of that going on, and I do think there are what you could call angelic forces going on as well. That there are forces that are, I think, in my opinion, are guiding and containing, let's say, humanity and the planet to kind of like, we got to learn our own lessons. We got to grow up, right? But at the same time, they're not going to let us go so far off that like it defeats the whole point of everything up until this point, right? Where like 90% of the planet gets killed off, or like I don't see that happening. Obviously, anything can happen. I could be wrong. I hope not, but I just think there are higher things at play that we just can't really know about readily. I think there's proof of that, all throughout history, really, and you know, um, people that have had their own spiritual experiences or with the divine or near-death experiences, go down the list, right? Can tell you that it's like, look, what we think is all that encompasses reality is like nothing. It's just this tiny thing, and like the real, like even your real self is like well beyond this, right? So even if you die, really, that's not even anything to fear, because you're not your body. It's just an experience. It's just a vessel for your consciousness to have an experience, right? So if you stop fearing death, you don't fear anything else, and then you can live truly from your authentic self. So ultimately, I think this topic goes to a spiritual place. The deeper you go down and you think about it, it's like, well, we're really the ones in control here, even though we're constantly programmed to believe it's the government that's in control. It's this power structure that's in control. Well, yeah, on one level, that's technically true on paper, but at the end of the day, none of this works without us, right? None of it. We're the ones actually, it's just a matter of us waking up to that and be like, oh, wait, we can actually create the world we want to create. We can actually take charge and, like you said, unite. And that's what I think. I think there is an awakening happening that is leading to that. And, I guess we'll see how it plays out. I do hope that happens before anything like that happens, but
Right.
we'll see how the future plays out, and do what we can. And thank you for doing what you are here to spread awareness.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. I got about 60 seconds left, and I'll just use it to say this. My sixth briefing, where I was briefed on the truth behind religion, did reveal the creator of all things being real. And it said that universal presence is what we feel no matter what religion we subscribe to, because that's what we what we actually feel when we pray. That's the connection that we feel, and that's why everyone thinks they got it right, because we all feel the same connection. And that was how it was explained. So that does track. Even with the fire, it does track. It is real. The only thing I will say is that at this very moment, at least, where we stand right now at this moment, it is on track to happen still. And I can see that every time I look at the news.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have to do something about it. We cannot wait for angelic forces. We have to be proactive. We have to do something. Because if we don't, it's going to take place. That is a fact. We have to do something. We can't just wait for someone to do it for us.
Exactly. You don't want to sit around and wait ever. Action will change. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you got to run. This was fascinating as always. We can't thank you enough for doing what you do, and we look forward to doing a part 3. Definitely we'll set that up.
Yeah, thank you so much.
100%. I definitely have more information to go on, and you guys are the favorite podcast I've ever done, man. No, that's no slight to anyone else, but you guys are really involved, and the way that you advertise and the way that you really put it out there, I really appreciate it. And you have extreme integrity and respect, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will talk to you soon. And thank you guys all for tuning in. We love you, and we can't do this without you. So have a great evening and good night.